Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This image has encapsulated the essence of Zimbabwe's rigged elections. In this picture, Mnangagwa asks, is everything in place for the elections? And the chairperson of Zimbabwe's election commission says, yes, Mr. President, would you like to see the results? Zimbabweans have known that ZANU-PF has been rigging elections. I've said it on this platform that Zimbabwe has never held free, fair, and credible elections in the 45 years since our independence. Even the first elections in 1980, they were not free, fair, and credible. Because as much as the parties at the Lancaster House conference agreed that ZANU-PF and PF-SAPU would withdraw all their freedom fighters from the field during the campaign period running up to the 1980 elections. ZANU-PF agreed to that. But by the time they got home, back to Zimbabwe, they instructed their freedom fighters that some of them will remain in the field. They will not be sent to assembly points. And those who remained in the field, they were instructed to tell the populace that if ZANU-PF does not win the elections, the bush war would continue. Of course, the people voted to end the bush war. And as soon as ZANU-PF got into power, it went full house to consolidate its hold on power. They did that by instigating the Kukurawundi massacre. The primary purpose of that was to force the only other political party at the time that posed serious political challenge to ZANU-PF, i.e. PF-SAPU, to give up its existence as an independent party and join up with ZANU-PF. The late Dr. Joshua Nkomo and his colleagues finally relented in 1987 and signed the Unity Accord. And that paved the way for the imposition of the de facto one-party state. ZANU-PF has rigged elections in Zimbabwe ever since the country's independence to this day. Here is a video of one of the stewards of ZANU-PF, former Vice President Joyce Mujuru, admitting of the ZANU-PF vote rigging schemes.
Zvandandisingazive ndizvozvo zvekuti identity card inopiwa vanhu vakawanda vopiwa nhamba dzakasiyana. Iyo rwendo runo zvanyatsobudisa pachena vaisenzeswa kuita izvozvo kubirizira musarudzo. One constituency, vadzikiti, one constituency inobudisa ma anomalies anokwana zviuru zviviri 2000 and handifungi kuti vanyatsoita thorough job. There could be more. Saka chindiudzai 2000 times 210 constituencies vakomana makaita mental arithmetic ichi iyoyo chiuzai macalculator mundishedzere nhamba kuti 420,000 ndakudarika inini ndakaita mental arithmetic 420,000 munhu ukadzi wawina ne420,000 inga vamwe vanopinda wani muparamende nemavhoti 15 wadarikawo wawadya ne15 rimwe gore takanetsana neconstituency yasekeramai kumarondera ine mavhoti yanga asingambosvika 20 tichiti wadya munhu weMDC. Saka muri kuona kushata kwazviri kuita zvisina kunaka zvasvitsa nhasi vana vedu kuti tavakanganisa upenyu hwavo. Ndinotaura vana chete asi kwaisisi vakuru vadzikiti hatina chatiri kusevha handinai kana if you look at me handina masavings handina let alone mwana anosevha chii. Saka ndo zvatiri kufunda izvo zvokuti kana yangu achiti vhoti iri free and fair ndofunga navo vaakunyarawo havasanyare zvavo kuwithdraw that statement ye-free and fair. Ngavangoti tanga tisingazive taifunga kuti zviri correct sezvaingoita wana mai mujuru kuti kwanga kuine izvozvo zvema-id cards ane www izvi tatisingazvizive. Kana neniwo ndakutonyara kuti ndainge ndichiitii kubva ndakanga ndiriko ikoko kuchiitika zvinhu zvakadai. Aiwa unosvikawo paunonyara veduwe kuti my god chokwadi ndakanga ndiri musaga sekitsi nokuti ini ndaingoziva zvishoma gambira kutsi kwesadza kune usavi isi taingotemura tichifunga kuti ndo manakira aro sadza. Abi edu vakanga vakatoita kutaura pachikore kuti abi edu vanga vakatopfimbika zvavanga vakapfimbika ndo zvaakufonyorwa. Muchiziva kuti midzimu yeZimbabwe vauda chokwadi chibude pachena. Saka zviya zvokuti hanzi chichi izvi zvizvi zvaane midzimu yevaridzi vakaona vana vavo vachiitwa zvipiriso zvekusunungura nyika. So let's take that very serious. Hakuna ZEC isu tiri kuti ZEC haifanire kunge ichitongwa ngainge yakazvimiririra nokuti ZEC ikanzi iri pasi pehurumende tiri kuziva kuti ZANU iri kutadza kuisa pachena kuti zvepolitics ndezvizvi zvehurumende ndezvizvi. ZANU yatora zvepolitics zvehurumende yambandikira. Kana iri ZEC ngaimire seZEC. Kana ine zvaino X ainofanira kunge ichitevedza anopasiswa muparliament ndo zvatange takamirira semapoliticians kupasisa maX iwayo mitemo iyoyo kwete kuzoiteerera futi takuzoiudza kuti ningi ndovatoda kuti vashande imomo vazoita zvanani kuvhu izvo kuzoona mazita 10 akubuda zvinonyadza izvo kanyadza kunge bheni rokupfuwa.
Ben, welcome to the program.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. You know, one would have thought by now we would have moved forward from this position of still talking about our problem of rigged elections. We would be expecting, trying to implement, the reforms necessary, or trying to find a way to implement the reforms necessary for us to finally enjoy free, fair, and credible elections. The evidence is there. It's so overwhelming. Here is another evidence coming from ZANU-PF themselves. One person that was right at the top of ZANU-PF and government, showing you 2,000 anomalies. A few weeks back, we had Senator Komichi come and testify and say the presidential elections, the results, the tallying, nobody knows where it is done. Since 2000, they were in MDC, led by Changirai, until we had so many MDCs and then eventually went into Triple C. They were there and they never knew where the presidential results came from and how they were tallied. And then we are still at a point where, we are still participating in an election where you don't even know all these things. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you go down, you have raw area, people in the raw areas that are being frog marched, that are being forced. We've heard ZANU-PF say, chief in the front, headman at the back, the people in the middle. We've seen Faz at work. It's tedious. We've been here. We know. We've seen it. But we just can't stop that urge to go into yet another election. What makes it even worse is we have had even observers, those that we say are useless, SADC, AU, EU, they have warned us time and time again. Stop participating in rigged elections. Implement reforms first. They've even gone the extra mile. They have given us the reforms themselves. Say, here is the correction. You just write down the correction, We cannot do that. I think, there's something seriously wrong with us. Something seriously wrong.
What I find really upset in this whole thing here is that the opposition, MDC, Triple C, have known that ZANU-PF was rigging the elections. They have themselves concluded that the process is flawed, so flawed, so illegal. The only logical thing to do is to withdraw. Here is a video clip of one of the MDC leaders, Tendai Biti, witnessing the blatant cheating and rigging of elections. This was in 2013.
How can we cheat like this?
There are some buses which are here.
Two buses there. One sits in Mount Pleasant. One sits. I think we shouldn't allow this. Officer, we don't want to be accused of disruptive, but this is not on. We can't allow this. Yeah. Ask anyone with clean show van. Ask this one, where does he stay in Mount Pleasant?
I will say to my seniors at Mount Pleasant.
All right, I'm doing that. But you can see his read.
Yeah, but we will take note of
Yeah, we
but
can't.
you don't take note of them. Stop by one.
That's why
Stop.
Because this is not on that we can have this blatant cheating. They are from the raw areas, yes. Yeah. Taken to think and then post them as officers. They've been passed by those buses, as you can see, as one of them a single address in Mount Pleasant. Just one. You need a bus to come from Morris Depot. Morris Depot is just across the road. You need a bus to come from Morris Depot.
But their sleeves retain one place.
So why were they carrying with buses?
Minister, just take a sample of 5. Go to the voters roll with the sleeves. You find them not in the voters roll.
They're not in the voters roll.
But their sleeves retain one place, and so we don't have the powers to.
When you are recruited, you have to shave your head into the police.
So you think they are in the police in a
They're
role?
not genuine.
Not genuine.
Those fake ones that like creating for special groups.
Right.
But the militias,
You can see from the cards that it's fresh.
cards and so.
They are just taken from wherever and then they just shove it.
That one, she's about 14 years old.
16 years young people.
There we have it. What is interesting thing about this video is as much as Tendai Bite, the mountain of evidence of blatant rigging, when the votes were counted and he was declared the winner, he was prepared to overlook everything. The blatant cheating, it doesn't matter as long as he got his gravity seat. This has been at the heart of our problem in Zimbabwe. We know ZANU-PF has been rigging the elections. The people have risked everything to elect the opposition, to implement the democratic reforms, to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. What has gone wrong? Well, ZANU-PF has quickly learned that if it allows some of the opposition leaders to win Crevitrain seats, they will forget about implementing reforms and making sure that the system is free, fair, and credible, not only for those voters in urban centers who are able to have a candidate of their choice, but for everybody. This has been the problem with Zimbabwe. The opposition, instead of implementing the reforms to end ZANU-PF blatant vote rigging, they have willingly turned a blind eye to it as long as they are able to win a few Crevitrain seats themselves.
Well, I think what is most discouraging is the fact that, if we didn't have historical evidence and even the current evidence of what is happening, one could wink an eye and say, people don't know or don't understand what is going on. But the whole thing is well known. The rigging of elections is well known to even the youngest of the voter. It's known. We all know in the back of our heads that ZANU-PF rigs elections, will rig the election. That is a known fact. Why? Because none of the recommendations that we were given to fix has been fixed. So we can never expect ZANU-PF to be a saint tomorrow and say, oh, we've rigged enough. Let's just give them. That is one thing that will never happen. ZANU-PF is gearing up for the next election. And most definitely, just like the sun will come out tomorrow, ZANU will rig those elections. And we all know that. We are just, naive that we want even the slightest of hope And now we have a situation where people are saying 2018 Chamisa won, 2023 Chamisa won. We all know that. No, we don't all know that, because nobody even knows. I mean, look, you don't even have something as basic as a verified voters roll. Who do you know that? It's a mess. So in an illegal, in a flawed process, it's hard to even get traceability and accountability. So how do you get numbers when you don't have a basic verified voters roll? And we have seen this happen where your name is not in the right constituency, but that of your late forefathers or grandparents is still there, and yet the voters roll is supposed to have been updated. Come on, guys. It's simple. It does not. It's not rocket science. We know what is going on. We've been told. Everybody was running with that SADC report the time it was published. Everybody ran with it and everybody agreed with its content. How did we skip the recommendations? We're in serious trouble if we are going to continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. In fact, it becomes madness. And it is showing that the people of Zimbabwe are now in a position where they are clueless of the best thing to do. Because no matter what, they have to participate in flawed elections. It's gotten to an extent also that now we have political parties mushrooming left, right, and center. You can have as many competitors as you want, but as long as the race is flawed, you are not doing anything. I think we need to get that right. We can have 200 candidates, political parties, but ZANU-PF, as long as it can rig those elections, they don't mind. You can even have 1 million if you want. We need to understand what we are doing. We are only inflicting self-harm. We are shooting ourselves in the foot. We are perpetuating our suffering. We have to change. We've been warned. And this is why you find even the Western countries and the whole world, actually, the international community, has since backed off Zimbabwe because we're a case that cannot be helped. We are refusing treatment. Somebody that is sick and refuses treatment, they are led to suffer and die with their disease. This is where we are at. We have been told, not once, but so many times, up until those that are telling us grew tired to say, no, they actually know what they're doing is no good. And I believe we all know what we are doing is. There's nobody that doesn't know that ZANU will win the 2028 election. Even if the election was tomorrow, no need for campaigning. It was the done deal. We need to stop doing this to ourselves. It's the only way we can get help and help ourselves as well.
I've often referred to this quotation from David Coulthard's book. David Coulthard is one of the MDC leaders. We've been there ever since the formation of the MDC, in fact. He was one of the ministers in the GNU. He participated in the 2013 elections, and he is the one who admitted that the process was so flawed, so illegal, that it was impossible to win it. The only logical step was to withdraw, as he put it. And he was right. But David Coulthard in that book also explained why the opposition leaders did not withdraw in the 2013 and all the subsequent elections. Greed. They knew that ZANU-PF needed legitimacy, and for that, it was allowing a few of the opposition leaders to win seats. And they were after those seats. And we've been talking about free, rigged elections and so forth. The opposition leaders have known the process is flawed, but they have continued to participate and conned their members to participate out of greed. I have often played this video where Chamisa tells these people that he was preparing this cabinet because he was going to win the 2023 elections. He even evokes the name of God. I think it's a video that must be repeated again and again until people finally it sinks in.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifo iri. Plan ya Mwari haifo iri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
And one of the most disappointing things about our system is that some of the victims of his lies are individuals who have had 11 years plus of formal education. These are what one would call the intellectuals in society. And yet they're the ones Chamisa was able to con to participate in the elections on the basis that it was God's plan for Triple C to win those elections. And some of them are the same individual who are now saying, yes, Chamisa did plug those vote rigging loopholes. The only loophole that he did not plug was that ZEC was able to announce the wrong results. Well, if you evoke the name of God, God is in it. It is God's plan. Are we being asked here to believe that God had omitted in his plan a key loophole, like allowing ZEC to announce the wrong result? This was more than a mistake. This is a catastrophe. Are we saying God made such an idiotic mistake, plugged all the other vote rigging loopholes, and and forgot to plug the most important one of all. Because if you can announce whatever result you want, everything else you have done is immaterial. How the so-called intellectual could keep on believing such idiotic lies from the likes of Chamisa is what is so disappointing about the Zimbabwe situation. Most of the opposition supporters are in the urban centers. Some of them, in fact, many of them, they're in the diaspora. How is it possible that these people continue to believe some of the idiotic lies that we have heard from the opposition? It beggars belief. This is what is so disappointing about Zimbabwe. And I agree with you, Ben, when you say that we cannot keep on pretending that we don't know the solution. We have been given the solution. It's there. The writing has been on the wall all these years. Even some of the leaders, ZANU-PF leaders themselves, we played a video clip there of former Vice President Joyce Mujuru admitting of the vote rigging. They know that the process is flawed. They've known it all along. Why is it that we keep on believing that we can still win rigged elections? Because Chamisa said so. Unbelievable. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
One question that I found very interesting this week was, when somebody responded to me and said, how do you know that the alternative will be a success? Are there any guarantees? And I asked a question to say, for 25 years participating in rigged elections, what guarantees were you given that it would work? And I believe the answer is none. There were no guarantees. When Chamisa stood up and said he was going to win big, he actually guaranteed and said that God was in it. And we all know that God does not fail. But that was a lie. And up to today, most people do not want to hear that Chamisa is a liar. But that's fine. When we stop participating in flawed elections and demand the recommendations that we were given by the international community, the international community cannot then turn back and give a blind eye when ZANU-PF rigs those elections. And I think the worst case scenario is we would go back to another GNU. After all, elections are not for the candidates. Elections are for us, the people. We are choosing them and not the other way around. So if we say no reforms, no elections, that means that the election is no longer for us. And I think that is the best step forward. Once we take that route, we are now inviting those that gave us the idea into play. And we know they have given us a GNU before. And hopefully, if we do get that other GNU, we are in the right mind to choose competent people to finally implement the reforms necessary for us to have free, fair, and credible elections. But for us to have that clear mind, we first of all have to admit we were wrong. Because I do not see us, doing anything better if we cannot simply admit our wrongdoing. Because it is from our wrong that we learn from the mistake and move forward and better ourselves. I urge every Zimbabwean out there. The evidence is just too much. Jonathan Moyo gave us the evidence. Mam Juru is giving us the evidence. The international community is giving us the evidence. Most of you have even witnessed the evidence. Tendai Beat is giving us the evidence. David Colton gave us the evidence. Sangirai, before he died, gave us the same evidence. Participating in rigged elections is a futile mistake, one that has perpetuated our suffering for so long. It's time to stop doing this. It's time to think of a new way out. And that way out, we are lucky enough to have been given the answers to our problem. All we just have to do is correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just want to remind anybody listening that if you want to join us to express your views on whatever subject matter we are discussing, we are inviting people to join us on this platform on Saturday evenings and Sunday evenings. So tomorrow we'll be on this platform using the same link as shown at the bottom of your screen there. So if you want to join us, please use the link and would like to hear from you. To come back to this issue, we started with this image where Mnangagwa is asking, is everything in place for the elections? And the ZEC chairperson says, yes, Mr. President. Would you like to see the results? This encapsulates what elections in Zimbabwe have been about the last 45 years. 45 years of rigged elections. I think it speaks volumes of us, Zimbabweans, as a people. Because he's saying that in 45 years, we have failed to find an answer to end this blatant cheating, rigging elections. I would like to emphasize that it's free, fair, and credible elections is more than just a right. It is the essence of good governance. Zimbabwe is a failed state because we have denied ourselves good governance for the last 45 years. Anyone out there who is serious about ending this case of rigged elections and bad governance, you have to accept the present system is not working. The only way to end it is very simple and very clear. Stop participating in flawed elections. so flawed, so illegal, the only logical thing to do is to withdraw. And if you don't withdraw, you give the process legitimacy. That is not rocket science. That is common sense. Why it has taken 45 years and still counting for some people to even realize the sheer futility of participating in these flawed elections beggars belief. As for the opposition MDC CCC leaders, they've been participating in these flawed elections out of greed. It's our fault, we, the ordinary people, that we have not seen what is happening. Even after 25 years of MDC CCC on the political stage, we still haven't opened our eyes to see what is happening. Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat the same mistake over and over again. That is a reality that we can only continue to ignore at our own peril. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.